Welcome to the show, you handsome devils and devillettes.
She's a handsome woman.
She sure is handsome. Yeah, well, now we got the spring break of crime is upon us. You know what's? I really do want to see James Renner's one-man show.
Wait a second.
Do you know about this? There's
Jimmy Renner.
Old Jamesy Renner.
I actually, he and I, we're not tight, but we do stay in contact with each other. But the left hand and the right hand don't really know what the other one's doing, if that makes. So what is James Renner doing a one-man show at Crimecon?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought. When you said that, I pictured
he's on tour. He's on tour right now.
I pictured like Billy Crystal, doing that whole. What did Billy Crystal call that? That's a really good one-man show, by the way.
Well, let me pull this up. I'm going to jamesrenner.com. Well, he has his new book, Muse.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read that yet?
No.
I have not. Okay, so here's what it says. It says, James Renner. The best is also, it's supposed to be like this artsy picture of James, and it doesn't look much like James. And he's a handsome man. He's a handsome woman. It says a mix of stand-up and frightening stories about our obsession with crime. So, yeah.
Now, I do know this about James Renner. So this kind of fits him a little bit.
Wait, no, he's going to be doing a show in New Orleans at the New Movement. So maybe we should go there.
So not at Crimecon per se. He's going to be there for Crimecon, and then he's going to this other location to do his one-man show.
Yeah.
Which includes juggling chainsaws and lots of pyrotechnics.
It's a mix of stand-up.
So Renner I don't remember what college he went to. It was somewhere here in Ohio.
It wasn't a good one.
But when he was in college, he was part of some group kind of like Shadow Box, where it's nice. was like a local Saturday Night Live sketch comedy, things. I don't know anything about it other than that. And I don't remember how I even know that.
Okay, so check out jamesrenner.com if you're interested. He's going to be in Nashville on the 5th, Birmingham on the 6th, June 8th. He's going to be in New Orleans, June 11th, Charlotte, June 13th. He'll be in Washington, D.C., and on June 14th, he'll be in Brooklyn. So
he's going to be driving around, and then Crimecon becomes part of his.
Well, I hope he's
his
flying,
stops,
actually.
He could be flying. But he will be at Crimecon. I know that. Well. Yeah, and I can't say for certain with Renner, but he's told me he was going to be there.
No, he'll be there, and he's always fun to hang out with. I mean, other than the fact that, when one of your, crime host, and I maybe said it before on the show, but I really liked the disappearance of Mara Murray, the docu-series on Oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, the host, Maggie, she's cute. And she said, hey, when we get to Crimecon, let's hang out. And so after one of the events that she was doing, she sends me a text, let's go get something to eat. I went, of course. And then who has to intrude on the lunch? Old Jimmy Renner. But no, it was good. It was actually probably more interesting because the behind the scenes talk between those two was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So no, and I think we kid about Renner, but if he's charging you money, he's not going to. If it's $1.50 show, he doesn't stop at $1.50.
Yeah, he's going to give you a $10 show.
He keeps going.
$20 show.
He doesn't stop. He's like Steve Martin, just keeps going. So no, it's cool for him. I just don't know. One, I go, the first thought in me is like, well, if he can get people, because he did post a picture of the crowd, and they're not big venues, but the venue he was at was packed. And I thought, Well, I wonder if Captain can go on tour. A mix of stand-up. I'll say a mix of stand-up and a bunch of random nonsense. Me bitching about random things.
Well, I want to take this time to point out
Bitch about me.
No, to point out to everybody that's listening that is going to Crimecon within the next couple days.
I'll be there.
Yeah, Captain will be there, and I might show up. And but here would be my recommendation to anybody that's going to Crimecon for the very first time. To go to the Crimecon website before you leave wherever you're coming from.
Yeah, crimecon.com. Let me go there real quick.
Captain's going to go there. I'm there right now. And you can pull up the schedule of events for this year's Crimecon. And I imagine this has probably been up there for some time. But, you know, they advertise this is going to be there. This or that and the other thing's going to be there. But then as you get closer, you get a real list of events and the times that you can go to those different events.
And we do have to remember, anybody that's VIP, they can do special meetups. So if I get a text about a meetup, you have to go this year. Because I told you about
we'll see.
I told you about that poor girl that showed up to the VIP, and I was like, well, and I eventually said, well, it's kind of odd that you just wanted to meet me. And she goes, no, I wanted to meet both of you.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, well, it's kind of weird that I assumed that you just wanted to meet me.
Well, that was kind of a weird thing because it wasn't like I thought it was something I was supposed to go to and didn't show up. It was something I thought I wasn't supposed to go to.
They never sent you a text. They were just
right.
They're trying to communicate to both of us just through me, and I was not aware of that.
Well, yeah, because I think they were asking you, hey, are you going to be there?
Yeah.
Which almost sounds singular.
Yeah.
Are you going to be there?
But we did get some cool beer, which was cool. And then there was some listeners that brought us some care package or something like that.
So here's my personal recommendation to first-time attendees of this year's Crimecon, or even if you've been in the past and haven't learned this yet.
Well, and some people are not going for the whole weekend. Some people just go for the day. So this is more advice for
everyone.
For everyone.
It works for everyone because of this. There are events on all 3 days, and some of those events are scheduled at the same times as other events, and sometimes events overlap each other. What I'm getting at is I don't think it's humanly possible. Well, I know from looking at the schedule, it's not humanly possible to attend everything that they got going on. And that's why it's something that you and I enjoy being a part of so much, because it's expensive to go. I'm not going to lie. Like, the tickets I don't think are cheap.
No.
But on top of that, I do want people to know that if you do spring for those tickets, and I realize everybody has a choice on how they spend their hard-earned money. But the thing that I've always felt good about Crimecon and being a part of it is every time I show up, I'm like, wow, there is so much shit going on here. There's so much to do and see and listen to and to be a part of. Now, when we did the first year in Indianapolis, I was only able to drop in for a couple of hours because of a prior engagement. The last year, I was really able to soak in the whole experience of Crimecon for the first time. And the first thing that really jumped off the page to me was when I was reviewing. I didn't review the schedule until like Friday morning while we were sitting there at Podcast Row.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reviewing the schedule, and I'm like, ooh, I'd like to go to that. I'd like to go to this. I'd like to go to... But it was a little overwhelming to just be trying to sit there and do it on the fly. That's why I would recommend everybody go to the website now that the schedule is posted there for everyone to see. You can decide and pick and choose, and especially if you're going with a significant other or some friends, some family, maybe you have some time to chat in advance and say, hey, we'd like to do a lot of this stuff as a group or together. What do you want to see? What do you want to see? And you can plan it out a little bit. I mean, just for instance, on the first day, on Friday, June 7th, at 12:30 p.m., there's 4 different things you can go to at 12:30. So what they typically do in this, the way they did it last year, which I'm hoping the layout is similar because it worked so well last year, is they had these big conference rooms, these big auditoriums, and each of these kind of showcased events or presentations would be in one of these large conference rooms or auditorium type settings, right? And then most of those were all kind of along the same strip that was Crimecon, which was the strip itself was pretty much made up of Podcaster Row. Mm-hmm. So you could kind of walk in and go, all right, well, I want to see this. And on your way in, you could say hi to the guys from Crawlspace, or you could go see this event. And at the end of it, you can come and jump over to our table and say hi to Nick and the captain. But yeah, just as a prime example. Okay. And then at 1:45 p.m. on Friday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different things you could attend.
Wait, where are you at?
At 1:45 on Friday.
1:45. Yep.
So you really kind of got to look at it in advance, and some of this stuff, like as deep into true crime as you and I are, when I review this kind of list, some of these things I have to look up and go, okay, who is this? Because I really want to get the most bang for my buck, and so you want to really figure out what you want to do. I'm just going to rattle off some things that kind of jump off the page here. One thing that looks interesting right away.
Well, no, there's more than that, because at that same time, Podcast Row is going till 2:45.
Right. So now you have 9 things that you could choose from. But Podcast Row goes long enough that you could go to the 12:30 event and then go to Podcast Row, or you could skip a 12:30 event, go to Podcast Row, and then attend one of these 1:45 events.
Yeah, you notice. I'm like looking through all this stuff. I'm going, oh yeah, Wine and Crime Podcast Live, Martinis and Murder, Live. Where's another one? Once Upon a Crime Podcast Live, and I see all these these events. And we don't have an event. There's no.
I prefer it that way.
Well, me too. Well, me too. But it makes us seem like we're slackers or something.
Well, we are. But the thing is, we sit at this Podcaster Row, and we've been very lucky because the last 2 years, we're busy from the start of Podcast Row, from the time it opens till the time it shuts down.
Yeah,
so
very popular.
We or just. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, we're busy the whole time. And so, yeah. And I mean, putting on
there's a lot of drinking that's involved in this.
Okay. So, all right, let's start here. First thing that jumps off the page to me that I would want to see, 12:30 p.m. on Friday, The Art of Interrogation, a serial killer confesses. This is with our friend of the show, former special agent from the FBI, Jeffrey Reinick.
Yeah.
Remember, he was on our show talking about the Danny Hohenstein abduction. And his book, we recommended his book. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Very good stuff. I know what this presentation would be about from reading his book and from talking with Jeff quite a bit. So Jeff, one thing he was involved in, and this is very interesting, and this is what his presentation would be about, I'm guessing. He picked up a witness. Okay, there was a guy that the FBI wanted to talk to because they believed he was either a witness or knew something about a series of murders that was going on at the time. This guy was not considered a suspect. Okay, after he talks with Jeff for a while, it's very quickly they figure out this guy should be a suspect, not a witness. We need to treat him a little differently during this portion. And the offender told the FBI, said, you know what, I'll talk and I'll start telling you what you want to know, but I'm only willing to talk to Jeffrey Reinick. So that's really interesting. He'll be able to take you through that. That was the Yosemite murders that he was involved with, that investigation.
Yeah, and then I'm going to jump down to 1:45 because there's a bunch, like you said, probably too much. There's a couple meet and greets. You can meet Jeff afterwards. He's doing a little meet and greet. But then you have the behind the staircase.
Yeah, so with Jeff, one thing too, I would remind everybody, dude is super friendly, super nice guy. Don't be intimidated that you're talking to a former FBI agent.
Speak for yourself.
He was very nice to us and to our show. Very likable guy. And as Captain points out, that seems very interesting. Behind the Staircase with David Rudolph. So David would be, he's an interesting cat because he was the guy that represented Michael Peterson in the first series of trials, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he also represented Ray Carruth, who we've covered both of those cases on this show. Now, David Rudolph.
The client's a bad man. He's a bad man.
The thing about David Rudolph, he's one of those guys that's very interesting to me for a couple reasons. One, I usually don't typically like, and I think most people in the general public have a similar opinion, but I typically
just,
don't
punching your microphone stand, or what are you doing?
No, I'm not. Most people don't typically like a defense attorney who is representing somebody that they strongly believe to be guilty. Like, oh, you're defending a bad person,
right?
A horrible person. And in both of these cases in particular, which were two of his more high-profile cases, these were murder cases. But here's what I will say about David Rudolph. I find him to be extremely brilliant at what he does, at his occupation. Because even though he's been, hired to defend these very bad people, he's very good at his damn job. Like if I found myself into some hot water, especially if I'm innocent, I would hire David Rudolph if I were able to, because this guy knows his stuff. If anybody can get Michael Peterson off to get him, retrial and all that jazz, that shows you one heck of a job. There's a Black Dahlia thing at the same time. Too. Case study. That's going to be interesting. Canine detection demonstration. Okay, so here's a helpful hint, just a tip to all the attendees of Crimecon. If you enjoy the high times, if you're bringing a little smoke with you, make sure that you don't bring it to the canine detection demonstration with Joseph James. That would be bad.
Or maybe not fly with it. If you get arrested.
No, you don't fly with it. Of course you don't fly with it. You'll get caught.
I like you get this the case against Adnan Syed, still not free. Rabia
at 3:00.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
David Rudolph again, meet and greet. I will drop by and say hi to Mr. Rudolph.
Well, it's kind of, it's sad though. Wine and Crime should ask me to be like a co-host for these events. Look, I take it back. The fact that we're doing nothing, that's good. I mean, other than the meet and greets, and we're doing
everything we were asked to do.
Right, but okay, Once Upon a Crime, they should have asked me. Shame on you for not asking me to be a part of your event. I'm going through a couple more. Let me just touch on a couple of
these. I don't want to point out every single thing because this would turn
Missing
into a
Mara Murray
show.
Podcast Live. When is that? That's Saturday, right? Saturday.
Oh, you're going too far. What else do we
at
got?
1:30 p.m. No, here, what I'm saying is they should have asked me. Shame on you, Tim and Lance. Shame on you. I bet they asked Maggie to be a part of it. I bet they asked Maggie. Shame on you, Tim and Lance. Everybody go unsubscribe to Crawlspace right now. No, there's a lot of stuff. And more so, look, Crimecon keeps getting better. The first year, it was nice. It was good. But they were new at it. Second year, it got way better. And I can only imagine that it's going to keep getting better. And with the amount of stuff, yes, it's kind of tough because, like you said, that's kind of the bummer about it, is that there is things at the same time where you go, I would like to go to both of those.
Yeah, but you got to pick and choose. Okay, yeah. A tribute to the Queen of True Crime, Ann Rule, at 5:30. This too on Friday. That sounds awesome.
That looks good. and the jury experience. That's for VIP members only, but that's cool.
Injustice with Nancy Grace, our friend Nancy Grace, 6:45.
Nancy Grace, she's so little. Every time.
Yeah. You
Every
could
time
fit
it's-
her in a FabFitFun box.
No, the funny thing is people go, "Oh, Nancy Grace, I hate her," or maybe you love her. It's normally you either love her or you hate her, but
If you meet her,
you'll love her.
you'll just love her. Like, because there is quite a bit of screaming and yelling on her show. And you know what, to be honest with you, I've had some people tell me behind the scenes that have been on the show, and they're like, it's all shtick. And you know what, some of it might be, but
Right.
but I also feel like her background, I mean, she was a family member of a murder victim. She was a prosecutor at one time. I think she can be, and that's just her personality. She's a pit bull when she feels like she should be. But to meet her in person, she's just like the sweetest Southern lady that you would ever meet. She's very funny. I was surprised at how
'cause
funny she is.
I said at one point, we've all talked shit about Nancy on our shows, and her reply was, "It's okay. I don't even know who you guys are." And I just thought, what a witty comeback. No, but Once Upon a Crime podcast, which they should have invited me, but they didn't. And Esther is just great. She's awesome. So go support that. Make sure you support all the podcast.
Here's what's going to happen,
events.
though. You're going to have one or two or all three of these
Too late.
podcasts. I was going to say that now you're going to turn them down.
Yes. 'cause my
Profiling
feelings
Dirty
were hurt.
John.
Yeah, that's good.
You listened to Dirty John, didn't you? Did you listen to that?
Yeah.
Well, that was a while ago. 10:15
It
a.m.
still baffles me that it goes
on
from
Saturday.
I believe Dirty John was originally aired on like a Dateline, and it
Oh yeah, it was. It was like just a 1 hour or 2 hour deal, right? On Dateline or 2020.
And I think what's so fascinating to me about it is I thought the podcast was done well, but it was very similar to kind of what we do, where it's like we look into a case, not always afterwards, but we're looking into a case, we're diving into it, and we're putting all the pieces together. So that way, if you ever heard about a case, it's like, here's a bunch of details. And when you break down Dirty John, the podcast, it was basically a deeper look into that, and they were able to do long form interviews with different people involved in the case. So it was really taking a Dateline episode or a 2020 episode and put a magnifying glass on it and getting you 6 hours. And once you listen to that podcast, you know all the ins and outs. And somehow, because of the popularity of the podcast, they turned it into like a drama show on TV, which I have not seen. I've seen clips or previews, but it's amazing to me that, because here's what doesn't make sense to me. If I would listen to the podcast about the true thing, why would I want to watch a drama version on TV about it? That's what doesn't make any sense.
I get it.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I get it,
Maybe
but
I'm wrong.
but a lot of people watched the Menendez thing.
Yeah.
That was a dramatization. A lot of people
Yeah,
watched
but this
the,
is not
the
right
Ted Bundy.
after. Yeah, but this is not right after the fact. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? Like
Right.
that. If they would have waited a couple of years and then they're like, "Hey, we turned this into like a mini series."
See, that's why you should be a TV executive, because they would have brought that idea to you and they would have already filmed it all and paid for it. And you'd be like, I'm the captain.
Well, wait.
I call the shots around here. You bring this back to me in 17 years and we will air it.
Well, no. Look, I'm sure they made money on it, but that's my issue. Is I think sometimes we're chasing the dollar too much.
Here's something. 11:30 a.m. on Saturday.
Okay, we're on. Okay, Saturday. Well,
I'm going
not
to try to
be
go in
up
order.
yet.
I'm going to try to go in order here. Well, yeah, you should be, because we will be at Podcast Row
When?
at 11:30 a.m. on Saturday. So there's also, at that same time, you have
It's not on my. Okay, there it is. Never mind.
We have the NYPD Cannibal Cop case. That's with our friend Brian Whitney, who we've recommended a couple of his books, as well as he was on Off the Record with us talking about, he's the guy that he did the book about, what was that Canada case?
Yeah.
Puka Nahada.
Yeah, Puka Nahada.
So he interviewed both.
But
I can't think of the guy's real name.
Luca Magnotta.
Luca Magnotta. Yeah, he interviewed both Luca Magnotta and Luca's mother.
Yes.
For his last book.
Yeah,
it's
but
interesting to see how many people and how many things going on with this event have links back to the garage.
We only have 1 hour that day. 1 hour for that time period. So it's a small podcast row.
So, but at the same time, you have Death in Dark Water,
which is going to be
exclusive look into the Natalie Wood death investigation,
which we covered,
of course.
This is basically,
it's like
crimecongarage.com.
It's like opening up the garage and just inviting everybody in.
We should be getting paid more money for this.
Rephrase that. We should be getting paid money for this.
Well, how do you know I'm not? I negotiated a different deal than you. I said, well, we know that Nick's going to be there because he has nothing better to do. But me, I was supposed to do I was supposed to do a 2-man comedy tour with James Renner, and I had to turn it down so I could be. Okay, let's get
the DNA of Murder with Paul Holes is at 2:45 p.m. on Saturday. Shit, I just lost my schedule here.
I just lost my spot too.
So Paul Holes, did you watch the before they caught the Golden State Killer?
Yeah.
He was the young, good-looking investigator and I think he's considered kind of a centerpiece at this year's Crimecon. Because I think Oxygen puts it on, and I think he's got a big new Oxygen show coming out. But he is an interesting cat as well, because I watched that. There were multiple Golden State Killer things that came out all at once before it was solved or believed to be solved. And he was on one of them. I don't know if he was on both of them because I only watched one. And I can't recall the name of it. But that dude was fascinating to me because he was talking about a map that they found. And at the time they thought maybe it wasn't connected. And then he went through like these different subdivisions and stuff and figured out that the drawings, this drawing of a map lined up with one of the subdivisions. Like this dude was working hard on that case. And he's part of the reason why they went and did the DNA, the genealogy investigation in that case. So that, I feel like that's almost a can't miss for something just to circle on your calendar there. What else?
But
I thought there was a Delphi thing on Saturday. Do you see it? Do you have a bigger version than what I'm looking at?
Well, you missed at 1:30 Missing Mara Murray podcast live. I wonder what they'll talk about. But also you have the Dateline meet and greet. Our buddy Josh, I can never say his name correctly. I don't know.
Who?
From Dateline. Keith Morris is going to be there. You got to meet Keith Morris. Josh Manikanowski or something.
Was I on Friday or Saturday?
I'm on Saturday now. That's at 2:45, and you were just talking about the Paul Holes thing at the same time. Crawl Space podcast live. Man, that's a lot to do. Like, what is Tim and Lance thinking? Like back-to-back podcast live. So if the first one doesn't go well, the second one,
which it won't,
and if it doesn't, and if it doesn't go well, then your next one is screwed, right?
I was listening to Crawl Space last week. They had Bill Thomas on there. He's the older brother of, I'm going off of memory, Kathy Thomas,
right? Who
was one of the victims of the Parkway, the Colonial Parkway murders.
So at 4:00 you have Chris Darden.
Chris Darden, the prosecutor in the OJ trial.
I'd like to shake his hand.
Me too.
That's going to be one of my goals.
I'm going to go to just a meet and greet with Chris Darden
at 5:15. There is one.
I will be there.
But you won't, because Podcast Row is at the same time.
Well, maybe it can go from 5:15 to 6:15, and I'll rush over there after our Podcast Row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, well, it's cool though. There's 2 Podcast Rows. One, just for an hour, and then a few hours later, another one for an hour. And look, it's weird too because a lot of people.
Chris Darden's doing a presentation at 4 p.m. on Saturday. Chris Darden from OJ.
Yeah, I already said that.
Oh, sorry. I thought you mentioned the meet and greet. Oh,
No,
that's at the same
5:15.
time. Okay, and that's at the 4 o'clock things at the same time as the Delphi murders.
Yeah.
See, that's what happened to me last year. There was a couple of events there was a bunch of events that I wanted to go to, and a lot of them I couldn't because we were at Podcast Row, but a couple of the events, I'm like, do I go to this one or this one? You know what I mean? Like I really had to choose. And so then I figured out with 2 of the events that I couldn't decide between, they were right next to each other. So I actually sat in on half of the one and then ran over and sat into the second half of the other.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on, and Saturday is going to be a fun day. We're going to get in Thursday, right? And then we'll start Thursday night.
Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. for the early risers. Escape from Alcatraz. That's Arthur Roderick. That was a book we recommended. We've never had Arthur on the show.
You're going to tell me that between Dr. Henry Lee.
Well, that's another good one to go to.
I would not want to be put up next to Dr. Henry Lee.
Yeah.
If I'm Arthur, right?
The other thing, though, too, do they, once something fills up, are they like, that's it? You got to go to something else?
Yeah, I mean.
Fire code.
I have not been, the smallest room that I was in last year was to watch
Most of the rooms are very big.
Well, yeah, but some of the live podcast rooms are not huge. But it was pretty big. It was pretty impressive, and it's so sad that they're not going to be there because I had so much fun with Thinking Sideways last year, and they're not going to be there this year. So,
Serial Killers Among Us with John White.
Yeah.
Now, John White's a very common name, so I'm not certain if I'm correct here, but I believe John White is a forensic psychologist.
He's a former investigative sergeant from the Dallas Police Department.
Yeah, he was on the Dallas Police Department, and he's also a forensic psychologist. And if you remember our Mad Bomber episode that we did last year, probably summer of last year, that's where a lot of this whole criminal profiling, that was kind of the birth of criminal profiling. It started with these forensic psychologists. So that would be interesting. And then there's a Dr. Henry Lee meet and greet, which would be cool because I've never met him, but you can just tell by his personality that jumps off the screen when you watch him on TV. He seems like an incredibly nice guy.
Yeah, but that's during Podcast Row.
Well, yeah, I'm pointing out things I would like to go to. Obviously, because we have all these obligations, I won't be able to go to most of them.
Well, and if you're in the area on Friday night, we're going to be, I believe the hotel that the event is happening at is the Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to do a meet and greet for anybody. It's going to be us and Generation Y.
Hilton Riverside.
Yeah, Hilton Riverside. I'm sure other podcasters are going to be there, but the main two is Generation Y and us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to invite Tim and Lance to come out.
I told Bill, our good friend Bill Huffman.
Bill will be there.
From Northeast Ohio, the Who Killed Amy Mahalovic podcaster. Told him to be. Well, I can't say that he will be there.
He will.
Oh, okay.
If he's not, he's a loser.
James
Renner will be there, and if he doesn't show up,
Bill is about the size of James Renner. So here's what we'll do. We told Bill about it. We'll just grab him up and take him there. we could move him there, no problem. We'll just duct tape his hands to the table, and he'll be stuck there.
Don't you
Oh, here's something to talk about, Captain. So
Duct tape and Bill.
Yeah, wait till I think he subscribes to this show, so he's going to hear this.
He's going to be ready for us. Hey, Bill, guess what? We just changed what we're going to do. I just wrote a note, put it on the window.
We have a different tactic.
Yeah, we're not going to use duct tape anymore. You better be ready, you son of a bitch.
You dirty son.
Yeah,
you dirty dog. So
no, I told you about what he did. He sent me a nice email saying, "Hey, I'm looking for some music for this
for some other project he's doing
for this crime podcast thing I'm doing, and look no further than the best guy doing podcast music for true crime, the Captain." And I went, "Oh, that's very sweet. When do you want it done?" Well, I'd like to launch it
5 minutes ago.
Crimecon. And it's like there's so much preparation and what a lot of we're doing Crimecon, but then you're going to be gone for a week.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of preparation to keep the garage ship going while you're gone. And so it's weird because it seems like a lot of work. It seems shitty at the time. But then once we hit that vacation point, it seems a lot nicer.
Well, it's the nature of the beast. Every job out there, a lot of jobs out there, you have to dump yourself into the rat race a week or two in advance to make sure you cover everything that you're supposed to have covered for while you're gone, and then when you get back, it's some catch-up work as well. But
yeah, like no vacation goes unpunished.
Right. Well, there's that old saying that no man needs a vacation more than the man who just had one.
That's so true.
Okay, so here's a good topic for us right now. Crimecon 2020. So when we got to Crimecon 2018 last year in Nashville, you know what? Here's big shout out to Nashville. I freaking love that
Nashville
town.
Was great.
That's a great city. And did you see the turnout for the NFL draft at Nashville? It was like hundreds of thousands of people partying in the streets. I don't know if that number's accurate, but that's what it looked like on TV. It was amazing. So
Crimecon 2020.
When we got to Crimecon last year, correct me if I'm wrong, because I often am.
You're wrong.
Last year when we got there at the opening for Crimecon 2018, they announced both the dates and the location of 2019.
No, it was at the end.
It was at the end. So if they follow their same platform that they've already established, then by the end or at the end of this year's Crimecon, we should learn the dates and location for 2020, right?
We already know the dates of 2020.
Okay, when is it?
May 1st and 3rd.
1st through 3rd.
Yep. May 1st through 3rd, 2020. Location to be announced. So
it's significantly earlier next year, and going off of memory, that looks like to be the earliest that it has ever been, because weren't we 2018, it was right around Cinco de Mayo, right? So maybe the same time, because because that was, I kept thinking that it was right on like the anniversary of West Memphis 3.
Yeah, it's weird though, because they're doing some other Crimecon type events, but not the big convention. And I wonder if it's, there was rumors that they were going to try to do like a Crimecon 2020, more of a East Coast one, and then do a Crimecon 2020, more of a West Coast, which would be good. I mean, we have a hard time doing meetups and stuff like that because we put out so much content. But it'd be kind of cool to do it twice a year.
Well, so that is interesting, because so far the first 3 have all been in the eastern half of the United States.
Yeah.
So maybe the Western people feel left out. Plus, the further you have to travel, the more time consuming and usually the more expensive it gets.
Yeah, but they're doing, I think it's called Crowds.
But is that the same people? That's not the same people.
No, it's a different thing, but it's doing one in Seattle.
Okay. So what if you could pick the city let's limit it to the 48 states. If you could pick the city for 2020, what would be your number one pick? If you don't,
do I have to pick a region, or I could just any city?
I would pick a city.
I'd like to go to Portland.
There you go.
I think that would be cool. Haven't been, so because I'm trying to think of places I haven't been.
Oh.
Chicago's awesome, but
I was trying to
I've
think
been
of
to
like
Chicago
cities that
a
I
lot.
already like. Like there's a bunch of cities I haven't been to that would be great.
Well, I've been to Nashville a bunch, and I've been to Indianapolis a bunch, and then
Right.
I've been to New Orleans a bunch. So to me, it's like I've already been there. You know, I kind of want a place that I haven't been.
I think Austin, Texas would be cool.
Yeah.
I really like Texas, and I've been to Dallas a few times and Fort Worth, and
Let me put something out into this world real quick. Do you know who one of my favorite singer-songwriters is? And he's from Austin.
I'm going to smack myself when you say it because I probably know, but nothing comes to mind.
Maybe not. Maybe not. He's an odd one. I've probably talked to him about him a bunch, but he's not super popular, like in the pop world, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the pop culture ethos. Bob Schneider.
Okay,
And
you're right. I didn't know.
And I know I've played you songs from him, like when we're just hanging out in the garage and waiting to do the show or whatever. But Bob Schneider, he's just one of my favorites. He's super talented. He's just amazing, right? Mm-hmm. And he's a part of a songwriter group. And what they do is they have they'll pick topics, right? So like they'll say, this week we're writing a song about the movie Silence of the Lambs. And that's your homework. And then you record, just some kind of cheap recording, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do some little cheap recording, and then you send it to everybody so everybody can kind of critique it. But it's pretty cool, right? Like concept-wise, right? So my last EP, as far as my singer-songwriter project is, or was, right?
Mm-hmm.
The name of that EP, which you probably don't know, is I'm Okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm bringing this up because you brought up Austin, Texas. That's where he's from. So Bob Schneider, this singer-songwriter, I found out about a lot of the songwriter challenges that he's done with his songwriting group. So I've taken those challenges and tried to write songs myself based off of those categories, or
Right.
based off those topics. I'm such a fan of his that he inspired the title of the last record, I'm Okay. And then I just found out, let's see. I just found out last week or so. It's been out, I think, this whole year. But I just found out about it. Bob Schneider has a podcast called I'm Okay, You're Okay. I'm Not Okay, You're Not Okay. Yeah. So
it's been out for a while though.
Yeah, but so this is my thing, is he's one of the guys that I if you had like to pick 5 people that you'd sit down at a dinner with,
Mm-hmm.
he's one of the guys I'd put at that table. But I'm thinking now, because he has a podcast, that there's a possibility that maybe I'll make a connection there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not after he hears this, of course, right? Because he'll be like, this guy's a raging psychopath. But yeah, no, I had to put that out there. But I mean, my record last year was called I'm Okay. His podcast is now called I'm Okay, You're Okay. I'm Not Okay, You're Not Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my random story. Moving on.
Yeah, Austin, Texas would be cool. I think Atlanta, Georgia would be cool.
But I've been to Atlanta a bunch.
Yeah. No, I told you I'm kind of selfishly thinking of cities I've already been to.
Yeah, but what's a city that you haven't been to?
Well, that's the problem. That I don't want to go to a city that I've not been to, because
we spend so much time at the
right. It's just like when I used to travel for work all the time. Some people that didn't travel for work thought it was like the neatest thing in the world, and I'm like, yeah, I don't do anything. I work a 10 to 14 hour day each day, and then when all the work's done, I fly home. You know, it's not like you go to a city and you get to experience the city. My whole thing when I did that, and my whole thing when I do this Crimecon is, really you have enough time to have a nice dinner each night, and that's about it. It doesn't leave a lot of time to go into the city or to seek out, attractions that they may have. So it's I'm thinking of cities that I've gone to before and already enjoyed, and then that way I kind of know that I have a limited amount of time, so I know spots that I want to hit. You know what I mean? Like that's why Nashville was so cool for me, because there was a couple places that I had been before and really enjoyed, and I'm like, cool, I'll just very quickly go back there for a little bit. No, I've never been to New Orleans, and I am looking forward to New Orleans. I've heard a lot of good things. I've heard some smelly things as well. But yeah,
I mean, it's a tough one, like you said. I've never experienced Crimecon as just a person attending Crimecon. Like, so I wonder if they have a little more time to experience whatever city. Because a lot of the people that I hang out with will be like, oh yeah, we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this, other than Crimecon.
But no, I get that, because just because they have tickets to Crimecon, they're not obligated to be at any of those events. They can pick and choose. Where we've agreed and made an obligation and told our listeners that we will be at a certain place at a certain time. So therefore we are going to adhere to that. But I think wherever it would be next year, now that I put a little more thought into it, because of it being May 1st through the 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So June is always like a super busy month for me. And with it being that early in May, I think I could do something different where, especially if it's in a city that I've never been to before, maybe now I'm pushing for a city that I've never been to before. Because now I could maybe go in a day early, leave a day late, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
make a little more of a...
You told me to tell you when you're wrong.
So it turns out I was wrong.
Yeah. Good thing I'm here.
I didn't factor in the date.
You didn't factor in that I'm always right.